Chapter 2, First Blood. The footsteps told their story through the earth long before his eyes could confirm it. Heavy, steady, unhurried. He remained motionless in his den beneath the bushes, chin pressed flat to the ground, every scale along his jaw and underbelly drinking in the vibrations. The rhythm was confident, no hesitation, no pausing to scan for danger. Whatever was coming down that road walked the way a predator walked through territory it had already claimed. It doesn't think I'm dangerous. His tongue flicked out, tasting the darkening air. Still too far for scent. The last light of sunset was bleeding out of the sky, and with it, his already limited vision was collapsing toward uselessness. In minutes, he'd be fighting in conditions where his eyes gave him almost nothing. Not fighting. Not yet. Observing. He tracked the vibrations as they left the hard-packed road and transitioned onto grass. The footfalls changed character, softer impacts, but the weight was the same. Heavy. Heavier than him by a wide margin. The secondary metallic vibration he'd felt earlier was clearer now. A rhythmic clinking that accompanied each step. Chain links. Armor. Armored. Two-legged. Alone. The footsteps crossed into the meadow without slowing. No boundary stopped them. No invisible wall crushed their skull with pressure. They walked in freely, the way a hunter walked into a pen. The cage only holds me. He waited. The vibrations grew sharper, closer, painting a picture through the earth that his dying vision couldn't match. The walker was moving generally toward the center of the meadow, not toward his den specifically, but into the open space where the grass was shortest and the pond caught the last gray light of dusk. Looking for me. But doesn't know where I am. A scent reached him. His tongue caught it in fragments, carried on the fitful evening breeze. Leather old, well worn. Iron not rusted but not fresh either. Sweat stale, hours old, the kind that soaked into padding beneath armor and never fully dried. Something acrid and sharp beneath it all. Fierce sweat. Faint but unmistakable, a bitter chemical edge that the confident stride was trying very hard to contradict. Afraid. Pretending not to be. And beneath all of it, the warm copper unsalt signature of a living body. Blood moving through veins. Breath cycling through lungs. A heartbeat he couldn't feel yet but knew was there. The figure entered his 30-foot radius. His vision snapped the blur into focus like a hand wiping fog from glass. A boy. Not a man. A boy, maybe 16, maybe younger, hard to tell in the fading light. Tall for his age but narrow, still growing into limbs that were slightly too long for his torso. He wore leather armor that didn't fit properly, the shoulder pieces sat too wide, the chest piece buckled unevenly, and the whole assembly creaked with the stiffness of something worn for the first time rather than the 100th. A hand-me-down. Or a purchase made by someone who didn't know the boy's measurements. The chainmail he'd felt through the ground turned out to be a single-piece mail collar protecting the neck and upper chest, bolted crudely onto the leather with rivets that were already pulling loose on the left side. It would turn a weak slash. Maybe. The sword was wrong for him. Even from his low angle in the darkness, the Drake could see it. The blade was a longsword, a weapon meant for someone with reach and upper body strength, neither of which this boy possessed in adequate measure. He carried it in both hands, the tip wavering slightly with each step, the weight pulling his center of balance forward. His wrists were thin. His grip was white-knuckled. He's never killed anything with that sword. The boy had no shield. A small mercy and a large mistake. His left side was completely open, no defense except the sword, which he'd have to swing across his body to protect it, leaving his right side exposed in the process. Everything about him is wrong. The armor doesn't fit. The sword is too heavy. He's afraid. He came at dusk when the light is dying and he won't be able to see. Why is he here? The answer was on the sign. The sign the Drake had memorized before the boundary drove him back. Tutorial Zone Rank F Recommended Level 1. This was where beginners began. This was the first test. And this boy shaking in borrowed armor, dragging an inherited sword was here because someone or something had told him that the creature in Sunvale Meadow was the easiest thing in the world to kill. The sign is a lie. Or it was true before I started learning. The boy reached the pond and stopped. He turned in a slow, jerky circle, the longsword sweeping through the air in front of him like a broom. His breathing was audible now, fast, shallow, the rhythm of someone whose body was preparing for flight while their mind insisted on fight. "Hello," he said. His voice cracked on the word. "I know you're here," he continued, louder, the words rehearsed and brittle. "Come out and fight me. I'm not afraid." "You are. The sweat on your skin says so. The tremor in your sword arm says so. The way your eyes keep flicking to the tree line says so. You are deeply, desperately afraid, and you came anyway. Why?" It didn't matter. He filed the question away in the void where all unanswerable things lived and focused on what did matter. "Can I kill him?" "Yes. Easily." The boy was untrained, poorly equipped, and terrified. The failing light favored the Drake's other senses while crippling the boy's only reliable one. The armor had gaps everywhere: the loose mail collar, the oversized shoulder pieces that exposed the armpits, the absence of any protection below the waist except thin cloth pants tucked into boots that were also too large. Throat. Armpits. Inner thighs. Back of the knees. Wrists. Face. I could kill him 6 different ways from 6 different angles and he'd never see me coming. The boy turned toward the fallen log and began walking, sword extended, poking at shadows. He moved the way prey moved, loud, uncertain, broadcasting every intention through the sound of his footsteps and the creak of his armor. The Drake slipped from his den. Silence was his first weapon. He flowed through the tall grass with the fluid precision that 3 days of relentless drilling had carved into his muscles. Belly flat. Claws finding soft earth. Tail floating. Wings pressed so tight against his body they were invisible. He moved at the speed of patience, slow enough that the grass parted around him without swaying, fast enough to close distance while the boy's back was turned. The boy was at the fallen log now, 25 feet from the Drake's position in the grass. He poked his sword into the brush on the far side, then kicked the log itself, producing a hollow thump that startled a rabbit from cover. The rabbit burst from the undergrowth and the boy screamed and swung the longsword in a wild horizontal arc that embedded the blade in the log's bark. He struggled to pull it free. The sword was wedged in the soft wood, and his thin wrists couldn't generate the torque to rip it loose. He braced a boot against the log and hauled, face red, breath coming in panicked gasps. His sword is stuck. His back is to me. He's panicking. The Drake rose from the grass 15 feet away. The boy didn't hear him. Didn't feel him. Didn't know death was standing in the open behind him while he fought a piece of dead wood. Now. He launched. The boost from his wings carried him 12 feet. The remaining 3 vanished under the momentum of his sprint. His body hit the boy between the shoulder blades with the force of a battering ram scaled down to 40 pounds, not enough to stagger a braced man, but more than enough to send a panicked, off-balance teenager sprawling. The boy went face first over the fallen log. His hands, still gripping the embedded sword, were ripped free by the fall. He hit the ground on the far side in a graceless heap, the air driven from his lungs in a hollow gasp. The Drake was on him before he could inhale. He landed on the boy's back and his claws hooked into the leather armor, finding purchase in the gaps between plates. The boy's neck was right there. The mail collar had shifted sideways in the fall, exposing a strip of bare skin above the spine. Bite. Twist. End it. bite, twist, end it. His jaws opened. The boy rolled. Not skillfully. Not tactically. Pure panic, the blind, thrashing desperation of something that felt a predator on its back and reacted with every ounce of survival instinct its body could muster. He rolled hard to the right, crushing the drake beneath his weight for one agonizing second before the momentum carried them both over and the drake was flung free. He hit the ground on his side, claws tearing furrows in the earth as he caught himself, and was back on his feet in an instant. The boy was slower, scrambling upright, hands empty, the sword still embedded in the log behind him. They stared at each other across 4 feet of trampled grass. The boy's eyes were wide, green, young, filled with a terror so absolute it had circled back around to something almost like clarity. He was seeing the drake clearly for the first time, the pale green scales, the gold eyes, the blood-flecked jaws, the compact predator's body poised to spring. The boy did something the drake didn't expect. He pulled a knife. A small blade, barely longer than the drake's foreleg, drawn from a sheath on his boot with a trembling hand. The grip was wrong, he held it like a hammer rather than a weapon, but he held it. And he didn't run. "Come on," the boy whispered. His voice was shaking but his eyes were fixed on the drake's. "Come on, come on, come on. He's going to fight. With a knife. Against me. Brave. Stupid. But brave." The drake feinted left. The boy flinched right, slashing the knife through empty air. His balance shifted and his weight committed to the wrong foot, leading with reaction rather than intention. Moving where the threat was rather than where it would be. The drake darted right the opposite direction of his feint and came in low, targeting the boy's lead ankle. His teeth closed on the boot leather. Tough. Tougher than he expected. His jaw clamped down but the leather held. The boy shrieked and kicked a wild, stomping motion that drove the drake's chin into the ground and sent stars cascading across his vision. He released. Retreated. 5 feet of distance restored in a single backward leap. The boy was limping. The bite hadn't pierced the boot, but the pressure had done something to the ankle beneath, a bruise, maybe a sprain. His weight shifted to the other foot. His mobility was compromised. Good. Slow him down. Take his movement. Then take his life. He circled. The boy turned with him, knife extended, limping, breathing in ragged sobs. The longsword was 10 feet away, still stuck in the log. The boy's eyes flicked toward it. "Don't." The boy lunged for the sword. The drake intercepted. He hit the boy's calf from the side, a full-speed slash with his front claws, the raking motion he'd practiced on saplings. 4 parallel lines of red opened through the thin cloth of the boy's pants. Not deep. Not crippling. But painful enough to buckle the leg. The boy went down on one knee. The knife came around in a desperate backhand slash that caught the drake across the shoulder. Pain. Real, sharp, immediate pain. The blade parted scales and opened a gash along his left shoulder that bloomed bright and hot. He felt blood, his blood running down his foreleg. "He cut me. A boy with a boot knife cut me." He threw himself backward, hissing, the wound screaming. The boy was on both knees now, both legs compromised, knife clutched in his bloody hand, tears cutting tracks through the dirt on his face. "Just die," the boy sobbed. "Please just die." "No." The drake circled behind him. The boy tried to turn but his damaged legs wouldn't cooperate. He got halfway around before the ankle gave out and he collapsed onto his hip, the knife waving uselessly at shadows. The drake came from the boy's blind side. Low. Fast. Exploding from a standstill with every ounce of acceleration his body could generate. He leapt onto the boy's back, claws finding the same gaps in the leather, and this time when his jaws found the exposed strip of neck above the shifted male collar, he didn't hesitate. Bite. Teeth sank through skin into the dense muscle beneath. Twist. His neck wrenched sideways with savage force. He felt things separate. Felt the boy's body go rigid beneath him, a full body tension like a bowstring drawn to breaking. The boy made a sound. Not a scream. Not a word. A small, surprised exhalation, as if someone had told him something he hadn't expected. And then the tension left. All at once. The boy's body went slack. His hand opened and the knife fell into the grass. His face pressed into the earth and his breathing stopped, and the heartbeat that the drake could feel through the body beneath his claws stuttered once, twice, and was still. The drake held on. 30 seconds. A minute. Counting the silence where the heartbeat had been. Then he released. He slid off the body and collapsed onto the grass beside it, bleeding from his shoulder, panting, trembling. The gash burned. His muscles ached. His jaw throbbed from the sustained clamp. He almost had me. A boy. A terrified boy with a boot knife and borrowed armor. He almost killed me. Rank F doesn't mean safe. It means everything is trying to kill me, and any one of them might succeed. He lay there until his breathing steadied. The meadow was dark now, full night, moonless, the world reduced to sound and scent and vibration. The boy's body was a cooling mass beside him, growing colder by the minute. I killed him. The thought surfaced from the void like a bubble from deep water. It carried no emotion attached to a name or a face he recognized. Just a fact, cold and clinical, existing alongside all the other facts. He came to kill me. I killed him first. If I hadn't, I would be dead. There is no version of this where we both survive. There is no version of this where I choose to die. Something rose from the body. Not light. Not yet. Something else. A shape peeled away from the boy's still form, translucent, colorless, a perfect echo of the body it left behind. The ghost stood where the boy had fallen, upright now in a way the corpse beneath it wasn't. Same height. Same narrow shoulders. Same ill-fitting armor rendered in pale nothing. No expression. The face was blank, not peaceful, not horrified, not anything. Just empty. A cast of a person with the person removed. The drake stared at it from 4 feet away. Gold eyes fixed on the hollow shape that had been a living boy moments before. The ghost didn't look at him. Didn't look at anything. It simply rose. Slowly at first. Drifting upward like smoke in still air, feet leaving the grass, then the tops of the tall stalks, then the height of the fallen log. The higher it climbed, the less substantial it became, edges softening, form thinning, the translucent shape becoming transparent, becoming suggestion, becoming memory. He watched it go. Watched the blank face that carried nothing, no accusation, no forgiveness, no recognition that the thing below it with blood on its jaws had ended everything that face had ever been. He tried to reach for it. An instinct he didn't understand, his snout lifting, stretching toward the fading shape as if he could catch it, hold it, ask it something. His jaws closed on nothing. The ghost passed through the space where his teeth met as if neither of them existed in the same world. Higher. Fainter. A smudge against the dark sky. A suggestion of a shape that might have been a boy. Then nothing. The ghost was gone. And then the body dissolved. The shimmering he somehow expected, edges blurring, form breaking apart into motes of pale light that drifted upward like sparks from a dying fire. The body vanished as if it had never existed. No blood stain. No flattened grass. No evidence that a boy had lived and died here. Just light, spiraling inward, condensing. The motes slammed into him. Warmth. Deep, sustaining warmth pouring through channels he still couldn't see, feeding pathways he still couldn't map. His shoulder wound pulsed, the gash closing slowly, scales knitting, blood flow stopping. Not instant healing. But the bleeding stopped and the pain dimmed from a shout to a murmur. And the tree? The tree bloomed. The sapling in his mind surged upward, thickening, its branches reaching towards something he could suddenly almost see. The first branch point, the fork he'd been straining towards since he'd first felt the tree. Contact. He touched it. And the world changed.